All right. Now we, as is tradition, introduce the WOWs in the senior class, each of whom is going to give our kindergartners a little anecdote or perhaps piece of advice.
I was hoping not to go first. All right. Okay. The memory I remember is I remember in kindergarten there were the good bikes and there were the bad bikes. And when we would go to break, everyone would rush to the good bikes because they were way smoother and way bigger. And I never got to the good bike because I was never fast enough. But one day I come out and I run as fast as I can to the good bike, and I'm at the good bike and I'm about to push it up the hill, and I think it was True Goya comes up to me and says that Miss Roberts needs to see me. So I go inside looking for Miss Roberts. I can't find her. When I come back outside, I see True Goya with my bike going up the hill, and she wouldn't give it back to me for the rest of break, and I never tried to get the bike again.
Kindergartners, you're looking a little hot. I learned that you can wear the hat in kindergarten and keep your head cool too, so you can try that. My memory, I have a lot of memories of kindergarten, but the one that probably stands out the most, because it was the most embarrassing, was the second week of school. We learned about recycling, and at Chadwick the recycling system used to be pretty crazy. There was the bottles, there was the paper, and then the trash can, which was a little overwhelming for a 5-year-old. And so I took recycling super seriously, and one day in the K2 room, a boy came up behind me and threw his trash in the recycling bin, and I was really mad because you don't do that. And I turned around and I didn't see who he was, and I screamed, how could you throw your trash in the recycling bin? We just learned about this. And it was the crush of the entire kindergarten who was standing behind me crying his eyes out because he felt so bad. So the moral of the story is recycle, but don't yell at people if they forget. Everyone's trying to learn.
So in kindergarten, I was a pretty creative individual. Ellen and I spent a lot of time at the paint station in kindergarten. But one day we decided there weren't enough colors for us. So we mixed all these new colors and we were like, okay, there are primary and secondary colors, but we need more, right? So we mixed third and dairy and fourth and dairy colors and then proceeded to use them for the entire rest of the year, even though they were already existing colors. But we were really proud of ourselves for inventing these new colors. So always be creative.
So way back when I was in kindergarten, the school colors were different. They were blue and yellow, so every rainy day, Emma would wear her blue rain jacket and I would wear my yellow duck rain jacket, and we'd walk around the school together to show our Chadwick spirit.
My memory is when my mom bought me a brand new rainbow belt and I was so excited to wear it, and then one day after recess I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and in the bathroom I couldn't get my belt off, so I just peed my pants and then had to ask a teacher to tell me to take the belt off after.
I remember from kindergarten, where the parking lot is now, like the gravel lot, that was where the kindergarten used to be. And we would walk down every once in a while from the kindergarten to the library for library time. And I had this huge crush on this one kid, Philip Bernstein. Anyway, one day we're walking down, I hear this noise, and I'm like looking around, but I didn't know what it was. And then I turn around, and his head's right behind me. Philip Bernstein's head is right behind me. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I was sniffing your hair. Like, what shampoo do you use? So have good smelling shampoo and you'll get your crush.
Okay, so I remember in kindergarten, most kids want to dig to China when they're in kindergarten, and we thought it'd be way more realistic to dig to the sewers. So I remember Bobby Abrahamson telling Kevin and I that if we collected these special rocks back at the kindergarten that we could get a boat. And so we all started thinking about what color our room's gonna be in the boat. So we all thought we were gonna go in a boat in the sewers and go to Toys R Us and buy toys. So that was my memory. Thank you.
My kindergarten memory is that on opposite day, I forgot to do anything special, so I decided to go in the bathroom and reverse my clothing. But as I was changing, the fire alarm went off, and since there was obviously an emergency, I bolted out of the bathroom without my clothes on, and luckily a teacher was there to stop me before I got too embarrassed. So just like redress, it's gonna be okay.
When I was in kindergarten, then I went to dolphin camp during the summer, and we had senior buddies, and my senior buddy was so cool. He was in all the plays and all the musicals, and he would let me sit on the senior benches, and actually, believe it or not, my senior buddy was Mr. Detloff.
My kindergarten memory is when I got suspended for spitting on ants after being told not to 3 times. And then the next day I was so sad that my mom took me to Disneyland.
I remember on the first day of kindergarten, Kevin Ullman asked me if I wanted to be his friend. I know, very meaningful, touches my heart to this day. And we got along very well because we were both very big troublemakers.
My kindergarten memory was, and again, I'm really sorry, Mr. Hill, I don't know if you remember this, but we were drawing trees by Mr. Hill's office, and I kind of just went off and took my crayons, and I drew all over the concrete steps by Mr. Hill's office. And I was really sad after because I got in trouble, and I was, like, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my god, like, they don't like my drawings. Like, I was really sad. Don't draw on the steps.
My kindergarten memory is I was never allowed to have Lunchables during, my mom would never give them to me. So every break, then I would meet Ellen behind the garden in our little special spot, and she would share her Lunchables with me every day. So thank you, Ellen.
Okay, so I remember in kindergarten we had a vampire club, and I told Ellen Fergus that vampires eat sand. And so I told her if she wanted to be in the club, she'd have to eat a handful of sand, and she did. I'm sorry, Helen.
Okay, well, I remember digging to China through the sandbox like the rest of us, but I also actually remember this day, and I remember being so nervous to hold the seniors' hands that I cried all the way up the steps and then puked when I got to the main line.
All right, so I remember having this massive crush on Adrian Alvarado in kindergarten. I remember saving up for like 3 months to buy her like a ring pop as like a present. And I used like all the pennies in my piggy bank only to find out that she liked Philip Bernstein like 3 months later.
So my memory, I really enjoyed running the bikes during recess, and I thought it would be cool to one day after school go up and try and ride down Academy Hill. And barely made it. No, well, it didn't even make it down. Like 10 seconds going down, and I was like, okay, never mind. Too fast.
So fun fact, I actually also shared Lunchables with Ellen, so I don't know how many Lunchables Ellen had, but that's not important. So I remember in kindergarten listening, just like you guys did, to Mr. Hill speak, and I also was kind of like vaguely aware he was Emma's dad, but like I couldn't separate Mr. Hill, the dad, and Mr. Hill, the headmaster. And things got particularly complicated for me when we had the honey hunt. So we made bear biscuits, and we had to put honey on them. But the teachers were like, someone stole your honey. And so we had to go through the entire campus wearing these little bear masks looking for our honey. And I don't remember if Mr. Hill actually stole our honey or if he was just like a suspect in our case or something. But in the end, I remember thinking, how could the headmaster steal from all these little kindergartners? And I was so betrayed. And I was actually very afraid of Mr. Hill for the rest of the year, especially when I would go to Emma's house and see him acting like a normal dad. And I was just like, who do you think you are, stealing our honey? And then I guess my piece of advice and the moral of the story for you guys is that Mr. Hill is the good guy. He's on your side. And even if he stole your honey, you get it back. So it's all good.
Okay, so I remember that on the playground there was a small like barn kind of thing where we like stored a lot of the playground equipment. And I guess one day we decided to like make a business, and so out of the barn we would like make sand pies, and so for some reason we would sell the sand pies to each other, and the currency for these sand pies was buckets of sand. And so I guess the moral of the story is that it's never too early to learn good business sense.
Well, I was going to tell a story about the sewers. Thanks, Meg. So I guess my other kindergarten memory is that Josh Rosen and I, during a lesson on rocks, decided it would be a really good idea if we were to start throwing rocks. And so that was really fun until we got told not to, and we said no, and then I threw in and it hit Miss Echternock. And so I got in serious trouble for that. So sorry about that, Miss Echternock. And moral of the story is don't throw rocks most of the time.
So on the first day of kindergarten, I walk in, the first person I meet is this kid named Taylor James, and my name is Taylor James Delinga, so I thought it was just the most amazing thing that there was some other kid with a very similar name, and we found out that our birthdays are almost on the same day, and that a lot of the things, and we've been friends ever since, so yeah.
Well, on the first day of school, I met a friend named Daniel Allen, and as many of you guys know, I'm a big UCLA fan, and I shared my dislike of USC and how I liked UCLA, and then later that day he goes home to his dad and he says, "Who are we?" And his dad says, "We're Jewish," and then it later turns out he is a USC fan, but we still remain best friends to this day.
Well, thank you all. So much to learn in kindergarten.